Hello again, Gunners. We are back with a pre-match preview. We've got Burnley coming to the Emirates in the Premier League. We've got some fans around. This is the big one. This is the battle at the bottom, the big 6-pointer. Let's break it down. So the first one we're going to be looking at is possible lineups. I think we're going to differ quite significantly, obviously, from the Europa League clash with Dundalk, which was won comfortably enough in the end. I think we are going to see more of the same, I think, in terms of the Premier League lineup than what we've been seeing in games gone past. I think Arteta's got a lot of faith in certain individuals, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. To that end, I would expect to see the back four again. No surprises there. I would see Leno in goal. The midfield, I would expect to see 4 through there, maybe 3, and 3 up top. Who makes up those personnel is where the questions lie. I don't think there'll be too many surprises. Aubameyang up top, through the centre, perhaps Lacazette dropping into a number 10 behind him, and Willian to his right. In your midfield 3, are we going to see Saka, Ceballos and Xhaka? The probability is high. I think Mohamed Elneny played a lot of minutes against Dundalk, and I don't, for that very reason, see him playing another 90 3 days later against Burnley. As much as I think he probably should be in the lineup for the different energy that he brings, the higher tempo he brings, I think he'll probably be saved for the glut of fixtures we've got coming, League Cups, etc, etc. I know the Europa League's done, but we're going to need him because there's a lot of games coming up. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to see Ceballos, Xhaka in the midfield. And that begs the question, therefore, how are we going to get those goals? Because the problem is, of course, it's up top, but it's getting the ball forward that's been the real issue. And that issue is pegged on Xhaka and Ceballos, who are incredibly slow in their build-up. When they pick it up off the defence, they're already in a low position, and it doesn't get much further forward very quickly. Neither of them are big dribblers. Neither of them push forward with pace. And they've only really got Lacazette, who's dropping into spaces between the lines in the absence of a 10 or a more creative colleague in there. Willian, as we know, is probably going to start because Arteta believes in him and backs him. He's going to pull right and stay there. Aubameyang is going to float through the middle, desperate for service and for someone to link with. And the likes of Tierney and Bellerin are going to stay wide on those touch lines and looking to get in behind. But again, this is where our problems really have stemmed from in recent weeks. So the question is going to be, how does Arteta address those problems if he sticks with the same personnel? In terms of midfield, the options are there for him if he wants to do something different and be a bit more creative. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is also an option in midfield. We know he can play there. We know also that Arteta's not a huge fan of him in there, but he does have to address that midfield creativity issue. It brings with it solidity, we know that, but it doesn't bode well for the team going forward against a team like Burnley, who are going to sit, I would imagine, very deep, looking to win the game in the set piece or in the corners, etc, etc. They're going to be sitting deep, and we're going to have the same problems in terms of looking to break them down. I would imagine Sean Dyche would take a leaf out of Mourinho's book and allow us to have the ball in those wide spaces and invite us to just put the ball into the box. Because as comfortable as Tottenham were dealing with that, I dare say Burnley will be as comfortable, if not more comfortable, dealing with balls into the box. So if that's the road we go down, we're going to have to be much, much smarter in those wider areas. And if that means Saka moving across and floating and having a freer role so we can link up in those areas, if it means Joe Willock coming in instead of Lacazette, or to bolster the midfield so that he can get into spaces and take defenders with him, that may be an option. What I don't think Arteta can do is expect something different from the same lineup that has disappointed week after week after week recently. And so as not to entirely focus on the midfield's deficiencies, I think we can also look at those guys in attack and say that even if they don't get many chances, they're really going to have to do better with the ones they get, because they have been lousy. Even if the chances they're getting are reasonably low probability, they are, I think, 2.5 goals on the XG behind what they should be. And that could have brought us so many more points than we have. So if they get chances, even half chances, they've got to be snaffling them at a much higher rate than they have been. And God knows that we need them to do it for this game, because it is one of those games that we need to fire this season into life, because it is flagging badly and in danger of becoming a relegation battle, frankly, if we get anything less than a win from this one. Because Burnley have been shocking this season, we have been only mildly better than shocking, and if we do anything other than win this one, heavens knows where that leaves us, in desperate need of January, I would have thought, given that we've got a lot of games to play between now and the turn of the year. We've really got to be looking to pick up points where we can and fight tooth and nail, even when we're not playing well, to do something. In terms of key men for this one, I have picked out Bukayo Saka, again for the Arsenal. I am fairly confident he'll play, not 100%. There is some doubt about whether he will get a shot at this one. I hope he does. I think he has shown himself to be incredibly accomplished going forward. He is ambitious, he is driven, he has energy, he has good link play, he's got a great left foot. Let's get him involved, let's get him the ball, encourage him to run at people. He can play a great pass, he can play a great cross, he can shoot. He's got to be our main man. Again, for me, I think as decent as Lacazette has been for a couple of games now, I don't think he's going to be the one to win us this one, given how tightly packed I would expect Burnley's defence to be. We're going to need something more than brute force for this one. With all due respect to Lacazette, the finesse of Saka, I think, will be much more effective if he plays. I hope he does. For Burnley, I think that obviously their key man is going to be Chris Wood. He is a big lump of a human who is adept at exactly what Burnley want him to do, which is get on the end of crosses, hold the ball up, make a fucking nuisance of himself. And I don't see it being any different from him, because Burnley are so low in the table, have been so poor this season. He doesn't have fantastic numbers, but if anyone's going to cause some trouble for this Arsenal defence, it's going to be him. We need to stem their opportunities to get forward and earn themselves niggly fouls and corners, and we need to take control of this one early. So keeping him quiet will be a big part of doing that. On the line for this one for us is a move up to possibly 13th place, which is as underwhelming an incentive as it gets for Arsenal, but we've got to start somewhere on this long road back to progress and to advancement. And if that means a couple of moves up, so be it. Let's get a bloody win, because we've only got 1 in 5, and this will not exactly make things a great deal better, but a win is a win, and we desperately need one in the Premier League. We need to bring some Europa League verve into the Premier League. A lot of people would say that's easy to do against the likes of Mulder and Rapid and Dundalk. Arguably it is, because they're not fantastic teams, but they still need to be beaten and they still need to be played through, and they're all teams that are capable of being 11 men behind the ball, pain in the arses. And we haven't seen as much trouble breaking through them as we have in the Premier League. So whether that means bringing in a few kids to try and liven things up, pep things up, is one for Arteta. I don't think he will. I think he'll go back to his preferred methodology and trust in his players to get the job done and give them the tools to get the job done. But who knows, we may see a couple of kids on the bench who've earned a place, frankly. We might see Emil Smith-Rowe, unlikely, but we might. If he's not starting, I would almost certainly expect to see Reece Nelson on the bench, Joe Willock, Eddie Nketiah. Who knows, maybe even Balogun if Arteta is impressed enough with how he's been doing. So I would hope he's got some options on the bench to go to if things aren't panning out well, but my hope would be that they really have got some motivation in them for this one. They've had a massive boot up the arse this week. That would mean they grab the game by the scruff of the neck and get the ball forward as early as possible, put some pressure on that goal, get some chances created and get some goals. Because if they don't, the longer it drags on, the worse they're going to get. As eggy as the fans are going to get, it's not going to bear thinking about. So, fast start, some goals early, they can settle down, start playing some decent football, and let's build from there. As for predictions, I am not going to make one this week. I've made several for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and they've all been fucking atrocious. I've been miles off for weeks. So, on paper, you can say what you like. You can look at it from any perspective and draw your own conclusions as to the likelihood that Arsenal get a win for this one. But fans in the stadium, at home, against a team as bad as Burnley, you've got to hope to see some progress at the very least. As ever, thanks for listening, Gunners. Stay tuned tomorrow night to check in. Hopefully I'll be writing about a win, talking about a win, but you just never know with this side. Let's keep the faith, let's stay positive, fingers crossed. Take care, take it easy, see you soon.